Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going to try and understand just what businesses are all about.
Yeah, we're going to dive deep into the world of business.
We've got some really fascinating material here. It really gets into the nuts and bolts of why businesses exist, how they're structured, and all the things from the outside that can influence how they operate and what they do.
That's right. We're going to be looking at a variety of different perspectives on businesses so you can get a really well-rounded view.
And our goal today is to really distill out the key insights about businesses and give you a clear and practical understanding. We don't want to overload you with, a bunch of technical jargon.
Yeah, we want to cut through the noise and give you the essentials.
Exactly. So let's start with the most fundamental question. What exactly is a business?
Well, a simple definition is that it's any activity that provides goods or services to customers.
Okay, so a business is essentially an organized effort to satisfy what customers need and want. It's about taking inputs like resources and turning them into something people are willing to pay for, which is a product or service.
Right, and when we talk about inputs, it's helpful to remember the classic factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise.
Ah, yeah. I remember those from Econ 101.
It's amazing how they still apply, even in today's complex business world. So land refers to the natural resources used. Labor is the human effort involved. Capital represents the machinery, equipment, and money needed. And enterprise is the skill of bringing all these factors together to create something valuable.
Like a lemonade stand.
Exactly. A lemonade stand is a perfect example. You've got the space to set up land, the person making and selling the lemonade, labor, the pitcher, lemons, and sugar, capital, and the idea and effort to run the stand, enterprise.
And of course, the delicious lemonade is the product.
Right, and that's where the concept of adding value comes in. The stand takes those basic ingredients and turns them into a refreshing drink that people are happy to pay for.
Okay, so we've got the inputs and the output, but what about the things businesses offer? Typically, we talk about goods and services, right?
Yeah, those are the two main categories. Goods are tangible things you can touch. Physical products like clothes, electronics, or books. Services are intangible. They're actions or activities performed for a customer, like haircuts, transportation, or healthcare.
It's interesting how so many businesses today offer a mix of both.
Absolutely. Think about a restaurant. You're getting the tangible good of the food, but also the service of it being prepared, cooked, and served to you.
Or even something like buying a new phone.
Right. You get the physical device, but also often a service plan, insurance, and maybe even tech support.
So businesses are all about fulfilling needs and wants through this mix of goods and services.
Exactly. Needs are the things we absolutely require for survival: food, water, shelter.
And wants are those things that make life more enjoyable or convenient.
Like that new phone.
Yeah, or a fancy coffee.
Or that new gadget that you just have to have.
And sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference, especially with really good marketing.
That's true. Clever marketing can definitely make a want seem like a need.
Okay, so businesses provide goods and services to meet needs and wants. But why do they exist in the first place? What's their fundamental purpose?
I think at the most basic level, businesses exist to create and deliver value to customers.
And to make a profit, right?
Of course, profit is a major driver for most businesses. It's the reward for taking risks and successfully meeting customer demand. But it's not the only reason.
True. Some businesses have social missions. They're more focused on solving a problem or making a positive impact.
Right. They might prioritize things like environmental sustainability or fair labor practices, even if it means slightly lower profits.
Like that company we saw that makes shoes from recycled materials?
Exactly. But even those businesses need to be financially sustainable. They can't do good in the world if they go bankrupt.
Okay, so profit is important, but it's not always the sole focus. So how do businesses actually go about achieving their goals? Whether it's making a profit, growing, or having a positive impact.
Well, that's where business objectives come in. These are the specific targets they set to guide their actions and measure success.
Like a roadmap for the business.
Precisely. And effective objectives should be SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh yeah, MART goals. I've heard of those.
It's a popular framework for a reason. It helps ensure that objectives are clear, focused, and actually lead to results.
So what are some common types of business objectives?
Well, one we've already talked about is profit maximization. That's where the business aims to generate the highest possible profit.
Which makes sense. Profit is the fuel that keeps many businesses running.
Right. It allows them to invest in growth, reward employees, and ultimately stay in business. But like we said, it's not always the only goal.
Another objective might be survival, especially for new or struggling businesses.
Absolutely. In those cases, the primary focus might simply be on staying afloat, covering costs, and building a solid foundation.
Just getting through the tough times.
Exactly. Then you have growth. Many businesses strive to expand their operations, increase sales, capture a larger market share, or even move into new markets.
Growth can take different forms, too.
Right. It can be organic, where the business grows gradually through its own efforts, Or it can happen through mergers and acquisitions, where businesses combine or buy each other out.
And sometimes that growth can be really fast.
Absolutely. Especially in the tech world, we see companies growing at incredible speeds.
Then there's market share. Some businesses are really focused on grabbing a bigger slice of the pie within their industry.
Yeah, increasing market share can give them a greater influence, bargaining power, and brand recognition.
And in today's world, customer satisfaction is super important.
Oh, absolutely. Keeping customers happy is essential for any business's long-term success.
It's all about meeting or exceeding their expectations, building loyalty, and encouraging repeat business.
Right, and that often involves going above and beyond, providing excellent customer service, and really listening to feedback.
Word of mouth is powerful too.
Yeah, happy customers are your best advocates. They'll tell their friends and family, leaving positive reviews and ultimately helping your business grow.
And we're seeing more and more businesses focused on social and ethical objectives as well.
Absolutely, it's becoming a key part of how many companies operate.
Things like environmental sustainability, ethical sourcing, fair labor practices, and giving back to the community.
These are no longer just nice to have. They're becoming essential for attracting customers, talented employees, and even investors.
Okay, so we've covered why businesses exist, what they aim to achieve, and how they set goals. Now let's talk about how they're actually structured. What are the different ways to own and run a business?
Yeah, this is about the legal forms of business ownership.
Okay.
And the choice of structure has big implications for things like liability, taxation, and how profits are distributed.
It's like choosing the foundation for your business.
Exactly. A strong foundation is essential for stability and growth.
So let's start with the simplest structure, the sole trader.
This is where one person owns and runs the entire business.
It's the classic one-person show.
Right. The owner has complete control, makes all the decisions, and keeps all the profits. It's super easy to set up. You don't need to register with any government agencies or anything like that.
So it's really appealing for people who want to be their own boss and have that independence.
Absolutely, but there's a major drawback. Unlimited liability. This means the owner is personally responsible for all the business's debts. If the business goes bankrupt, creditors can come after their personal assets.
That's a big risk.
It is, and sole traders often have limited access to funding, too. They rely mostly on their own savings or loans from family and friends.
Okay, so maybe not the best option for risky ventures?
It depends on the individual and the type of business, but it's definitely something to carefully consider.
All right, so what's next?
Partnerships. This is where two or more people team up to run a business together.
So they pool their resources and share the responsibility.
Exactly. It's a way to combine different skills, expertise, and financial resources. And it's still relatively easy to set up. They usually create a partnership agreement that outlines how things will be run.
So it's a bit more formal than a sole trader.
Right. But like sole traders, partners typically face unlimited liability. Each partner is personally responsible for the debts of the entire business.
Okay, so the risk is still there.
It is. And there's also the potential for disagreements and conflicts between partners.
Yeah, it's like any relationship. Communication and clear expectations are key.
Absolutely. Now, if you want more protection from liability, you might consider a private limited company.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those. What's the abbreviation? LTD?
That's right. LTD stands for limited. This type of business is owned by shareholders, but the shares aren't publicly traded on the stock market.
So it's still a private company.
Exactly. And one of the main benefits is limited liability. This means the personal assets of the shareholders are protected from business debts.
So if the business goes bankrupt, the owner's houses and cars are safe.
Right. Their liability is limited to the amount they've invested in the company. And LTDs are considered separate legal entities. This means they can enter into contracts, own assets, and sue, or be sued in their own right.
So it's a bit more complex than the first two we talked about.
It is. Setting up an LTD requires more paperwork and compliance with company law. They need to register with Companies House, file annual accounts, and follow certain governance procedures.
So it's a trade-off, more protection but more administrative burden.
Exactly. But it's often the preferred structure for growing businesses that want to raise capital more easily.
Makes sense. Investors are more likely to invest if they know their personal assets aren't at risk.
Absolutely. And then you have the big leagues. Public limited companies, or PLCs.
Those are the companies we see listed on the stock exchange, right?
Precisely. PLCs can raise huge amounts of capital by selling shares to the public.
So anyone can buy a piece of the company.
Exactly. But going public is a big decision. It involves a lot of scrutiny, regulation, and reporting requirements.
It's like being under a microscope all the time.
In a way, yes. They have to be very transparent about their finances and operations.
And they're more vulnerable to takeovers too, right?
That's right. If someone buys enough shares, they can gain control of the company.
So it's a high-stakes game.
It can be. But it also offers the potential for significant growth and expansion.
And we should mention nonprofits too.
Yes. Not all businesses are driven by profit. Nonprofits are organizations that exist to achieve a social or charitable mission.
Like charities or community groups.
Exactly. They might provide services, raise awareness, or advocate for a cause.
And they're often funded through donations or grants.
Right. They might also generate revenue through activities related to their mission, but their primary goal isn't profit. It's about making a positive impact.
Okay, so we've covered the different ways to structure a business. Now let's zoom out a bit and think about where they fit within the economy as a whole.
Right. We can categorize business activity into three main sectors.
It's like looking at the different parts of the economic ecosystem.
Exactly. And understanding these sectors helps us see how resources flow and how different industries are interconnected.
So what's the first sector?
The primary sector. This is all about extracting raw materials from the earth.
So things like farming, fishing, mining, and forestry.
Right. It's the foundation of the economy, providing the raw materials that other industries use.
So the primary sector is all about getting those resources out of the ground or out of the sea.
Exactly. And it's often a major part of the economy in less developed countries.
Then what happens? Where do those raw materials go?
To the secondary sector. This is where those raw materials are transformed into finished goods.
So manufacturing, construction, food processing, all of that.
Right. It's all about adding value by processing those raw materials into products that are ready for consumers.
So the secondary sector is where things are actually made.
Exactly. And it played a huge role in the Industrial Revolution.
And then we have the tertiary sector, right?
That's right. This is the service sector. It's the largest sector in most developed economies.
So things like retail, healthcare, education, finance, tourism.
It's a vast and diverse sector, encompassing all those activities that provide services to individuals and businesses.
So it's not about making things, it's about doing things for people.
Exactly. And it's become increasingly important as economies have shifted away from manufacturing and towards services.
Okay, so businesses operate within these different sectors, but they're also influenced by a whole range of stakeholders.
Right. Stakeholders are any individuals or groups that have an interest in the business and can be affected by its actions.
So it's not just about the owners and the employees.
It's a much wider circle. It includes customers, suppliers, the local community, the government, and even competitors.
And all these stakeholders have different needs and expectations.
Absolutely. They might have conflicting interests, and businesses need to navigate these relationships carefully.
It's a balancing act.
It is, and it's all about understanding who your stakeholders are, what they want, and how you can create value for them while also achieving your business objectives.
So let's go through some of the key stakeholders. First up, the owners.
The owners or shareholders are the people who have invested capital in the business. They have a financial stake in its success.
They want to see a return on their investment.
Right. They're interested in profitability, growth, and increasing the value of their shares.
And they have a say in how the business is run, too.
Yeah, they usually have voting rights that allow them to influence key decisions.
Okay, so the owners are pretty important.
Absolutely. They provide the financial foundation for the business. Then you have the employees.
The people who do the actual work.
Right. They contribute their skills, time, and effort to the business.
And they want fair wages, good working conditions, and job security.
Of course. They also want opportunities for growth and development.
And happy employees are generally more productive.
Absolutely. They're more likely to go the extra mile and deliver great results.
So it's in the business's best interest to treat their employees well.
Definitely. Then you have the customers.
The lifeblood of any business.
Right. They're the ones who buy the products or services.
And they want quality, value for money, and good customer service.
Exactly. They want a positive experience with the business.
And in today's world, they have more power than ever.
Yeah, with social media and online reviews, unhappy customers can quickly damage a business's reputation.
So businesses need to be really focused on meeting customer needs.
Absolutely. Then you have the suppliers.
The companies that provide the raw materials, components, or services that the business needs.
Right. They're essential partners in the supply chain.
And they want fair prices, timely payments, and reliable orders.
They also want a stable, long-term relationship with the business.
So it's about building trust and mutual benefit.
Exactly. Then you have the local community.
The people and organizations in the area where the business operates.
Right. They might be affected by the business's activities in various ways.
Like noise, pollution, traffic.
Or they might benefit from job creation and economic activity.
So businesses need to be good neighbors.
Absolutely. They need to consider the impact they have on the community and engage with local residents.
And finally, the government.
The government sets the rules of the game.
Through laws, regulations, and taxes.
They also provide infrastructure, enforce contracts, and promote economic growth.
So businesses need to comply with the law and work within the system.
Right. They also need to be aware of government policies and how they might affect their operations.
Okay, so businesses businesses have a lot of stakeholders to consider.
It's a complex web of relationships, but managing those relationships effectively is crucial for long-term success.
It's about finding that balance between the needs of different groups.
And creating value for everyone involved.
Okay, so we've looked at the internal workings of businesses and the stakeholders they interact with. Now let's talk about the external environment, all those factors outside their control that can impact their operations.
Right, the external environment is constantly changing, and businesses need to be adaptable and responsive.
It's like navigating a constantly shifting landscape.
Exactly, they need to be aware of the trends and forces that are shaping the world around them.
So what are some of the key factors in the external environment?
Well, one of the most important is the economic climate. Is the economy growing or shrinking? Are interest rates high or low? Is inflation a concern? All of these factors can affect consumer spending, business investment, and overall economic activity.
So a booming economy is generally good for businesses, while a recession can be tough.
Right. During a recession, demand for goods and services tends to fall, and businesses might need to cut costs or lay off workers.
And inflation can erode profits if costs rise faster than prices.
Exactly. Then you have competition. The level of competition within an industry can have a huge impact on how businesses operate.
If there are lots of competitors, businesses need to fight harder for customers.
Right. They might need to lower prices, offer better quality, or come up with innovative products or services.
But competition can also be a good thing.
Absolutely. It can drive innovation, improve efficiency, and ultimately benefit consumers.
Then there are legal regulations. Businesses operate within a framework of laws and rules.
These cover everything from employment practices to environmental protection.
And businesses need to comply with these regulations or face penalties.
Right. Non-compliance can lead to fines, lawsuits, and damage to their reputation.
So it's important to stay informed and up to date on the latest regulations.
Absolutely. Then you have technological advancements. Technology is constantly evolving, and it can have a dramatic impact on businesses.
It can create new opportunities, but it can also disrupt existing industries.
Right. Businesses that embrace new technologies can gain a competitive edge.
But those that fall behind risk being left in the dust.
Exactly. And finally, you have social trends.
The changing attitudes, values, and behaviors of society.
Right? These trends can influence consumer preferences, buying habits, and expectations.
So businesses need to be aware of what's happening in society and adapt accordingly.
Absolutely. They need to understand what their customers care about and how their products or services can meet those needs.
Okay, so the external environment is this complex mix of factors that businesses need to navigate.
It's a constant challenge, but it also presents opportunities for those who are adaptable and innovative.
Right. It's all about being aware, being prepared, and making strategic decisions.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about a really crucial decision for any business location. Where a business chooses to set up shop can have a huge impact on its success.
It's like choosing the right habitat for your business to thrive in.
Exactly. And there are a lot of factors to consider.
So what are some of the key things businesses look at when choosing a location?
Well, one of the most important is proximity to the market. Being close to your customers can reduce transportation costs, improve delivery times, and make it more convenient for people to access your products or services.
So if you're a retail store, you probably want to be located in a busy shopping area.
Exactly. Or if you're a restaurant, you got to be in a place with lots of foot traffic.
And for online businesses, it's all about having a good online presence and efficient shipping networks.
Right. The digital world has changed the game in many ways. But for brick-and-mortar businesses, physical location is still key.
Another important factor is the availability of labor.
Businesses need access to a skilled and affordable workforce.
So they might locate in areas with a high concentration of universities or technical colleges.
Right. Or they might look for areas with lower labor costs.
It all depends on the type of business and the skills they require.
Exactly. And then you have proximity to materials or resources.
If your business relies on certain raw materials, you'll want to be located close to the source.
Right. This can minimize transportation costs and ensure a reliable supply.
Like a manufacturing plant that needs access to steel.
Exactly. And then there's infrastructure.
The roads, railways, aircards, ports, utilities, and communication networks that support business activity.
Having good infrastructure is essential for efficiency and smooth operations.
If you can't transport your goods easily, or if you have unreliable power or internet, it's going to hamper your business.
Absolutely. Then there's the cost of land or premises.
Buying or renting property can be a major expense for businesses.
So they'll often look for locations where those costs are affordable.
But they also need to balance that against other factors like access to customers and skilled labor.
Right. It's a trade-off. Sometimes you might have to pay a premium for a prime location.
And sometimes governments offer incentives to attract businesses to certain areas.
Yeah, they might provide tax breaks, grants, or other financial assistance.
Especially in areas that are trying trying to promote economic development.
Right. And finally, businesses need to consider the level of competition in a particular location.
They might choose to locate near competitors to benefit from an established customer base.
Or they might go for a less competitive area where they can carve out a niche.
It all depends on their strategy and their target market.
Exactly. So choosing the right location is a complex decision with lots of variables to consider.
It's a key part of the business planning process.
And it can have a significant impact on the business's success.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, let's address some frequently asked questions about businesses.
Sounds good. Let's see if we can provide some clear and concise answers.
So first up, what's the main goal of most businesses?
Well, while there are many different types of businesses with varying objectives, the primary goal for most is to make a profit. Profit is the financial reward for taking risks and successfully meeting customer demand.
It's what keeps the lights on and allows businesses to grow and reinvest.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that profit isn't always the only goal. Some businesses prioritize social or environmental objectives, while others might focus on growth or market share.
Right. It's a complex mix of factors.
Absolutely. Now, another common question is, why would someone choose to be a sole trader if it means unlimited liability?
Yeah, that seems like a big risk.
It is, but for some people, the simplicity and control of being a sole trader outweigh the risks. They get to be their own boss, make all the decisions, and keep all the profits.
And for some small businesses, the risk might be manageable.
Right. If they're not dealing with huge sums of money or operate in a high-risk industry, they might be comfortable with the level of personal liability.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, how about this? How can businesses balance the often conflicting needs of different stakeholders?
That's a great question. It's all about finding a compromise that works for everyone involved. It requires clear communication, transparency, and a willingness to listen to different perspectives.
Businesses need to understand what each stakeholder group wants and find ways to create value for them while also achieving their own objectives.
Right. It's a balancing act, but it's essential for long-term sustainability.
Another question we get a lot is, what's the main difference between the primary and secondary economic sectors?
The primary sector involves extracting raw materials from the earth, while the secondary sector processes those materials into finished goods. So the primary sector is about getting the resources, and the secondary sector is about making something with them.
It's the difference between mining iron ore and building a car.
Exactly. And finally, a lot of people ask, why is location such an important decision for a business?
Well, location can affect everything from costs to customer access to the availability of skilled labor.
It can make or break a business.
Businesses need to carefully consider all the factors we talked about earlier and choose the location that will give them the best chance of success.
Right, and sometimes the best location might change over time as the business grows and its needs evolve.
So it's an ongoing consideration.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We've gone deep into the world of business.
We've explored what businesses are, why they exist, how they're structured, the stakeholders they interact with, the external environment they operate in, and the key factors that influence their location decisions.
It's been a comprehensive overview.
And hopefully it's given our listeners a better understanding of the complexities and dynamics of the business world.
Exactly. Now, as always, we like to leave our listeners with a final thought to ponder.
Something to spark their curiosity and get them thinking critically.
So here it is. Imagine two businesses facing an unexpected economic downturn. One is a small, locally owned bakery, structured as a sole trader and deeply embedded in the community. The other is a massive, publicly traded tech company with global operations and a primary focus on maximizing shareholder value. How might these two businesses experience and respond to the downturn differently? What unique challenges and opportunities might each face, and how might their contrasting structures and objectives influence their resilience and ability to adapt? It's a complex question with no easy answers, but it highlights the interconnectedness of business, economics, and society as a whole.
It's a reminder that businesses aren't just abstract entities. They're made up of people, they operate within communities, and they're influenced by the forces of the wider world.
And their decisions can have ripple effects that extend far beyond their own balance sheets.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, think about the businesses you interact with, the products you buy, the services you use. Consider their motivations, their challenges, their impact, and perhaps this deeper understanding will help you navigate the complex world of business with a more informed and critical eye.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.